All right, I think I'll keep letting a few people in as we go, but I'll get started. So I just wanted to start by thanking you all for joining us and welcoming you to our study abroad information session. What we're going to do is we're going to have about 30 minutes at the beginning, which is going to be introductory and give you some information just about studying abroad in general, the application process. Of course, you probably have a lot of questions about international travel, so we'll be going over that first. Margaret Walter from the Study Abroad office, as well as Anselmo Canfora, will be beginning the session for about 30 minutes, as I said, and then we're going to have 3 breakout rooms where you'll be able to enter into one of the breakout rooms for either Barcelona, Venice, and Vicenza. At that time, you can self-assign yourself into whichever one of those sessions you'd like to join. And you can also move back and forth into the main room and into another one. So feel free if you want to hear a little bit about various programs to kind of move around as you'd like. They'll also be recorded. So if you would prefer to just stay in one, which is maybe the one you're most interested in, and listen to them later, we'll make that available to you. The breakout sessions will also be about 30 minutes with the program directors, and you'll have a chance to learn a little bit more specifically about each program and the focus and the specific location. And then we're asking everyone around 6 o'clock to just return to the main room, and we'll just give you some contact information and kind of close out the night. So I guess with that, if Anselmo, you'd like to get us started?
Sure. Thank you, Snea, and thank you also for seemingly effortlessly setting these meetings up for us and orchestrating them. It's really much appreciated and makes it all that more sort of pleasant to sort of join and run these sessions. So hello, everyone. My name is Anselmo Canfora. I'm the Associate Dean of Academics. One of my responsibilities is overseeing the international programs at the School of Architecture. And I have also the fortune to work with the International Studies Office and Margaret Walter, who is next to me on my screen. So she may be somewhere else on your screen. And Margaret and I have been working together for some years now on these efforts. So you'll hear more from Margaret in a moment. But I wanted to say just a couple of words in regard to our international programs. As you can imagine, as you know, the international programs or international travel and educational experiences, not only at UVA, but especially at the School of Architecture, are essential to our education and essential to our experiences at all levels in our programs. And certainly that in recent times has been challenged due to the pandemic. What we've held to the preparations. We will continue to prepare for these programs that you'll hear from my colleagues this evening. But we want you to know that in all aspects of the programs, both from its academic content to its safety, the safety of these programs, we are clearly focused on and will continue to do so over the coming weeks and months leading up to the, fingers crossed, the starts of the program. So this evening you'll be hearing from my colleagues who will present in the various breakout rooms 3 programs. The program in Barcelona, which is led by Professor Manuel Bailo. The Venice program, led by Professors Bill Sherman and Ali Fard. And these are 2 semester programs in the fall. And then our summer program in Vicenza, led by Ines, Martin Robles, and Professors Martin Robles and Professor Luis Pancorbo. And you'll hear from all of them in a moment. And then have also an opportunity to ask questions about the programs. These programs have a deep history at the School of Architecture. Some of the oldest programs at UVA, second, I believe, Margaret, right, to Valencia, if I'm correct. So we were claiming that to be the oldest program, but now we've adjusted that accolade. And so with these programs, you have an opportunity to experience an incredible, not only academic, curricular experience, but to learn in place in an incredible way in these three various places, and then an extension from these places, various field trips and excursions that you would also have opportunities to go on. So I'll stop there, and then Margaret and I will also be available at the end at 6 p.m. or so to answer any questions you might have, in addition to the ones maybe you had in the session, in the breakout rooms. And then I also want to mention that Carolyn Buchanan is also with us. Should you have questions in regard to school-specific financial aid questions, and then I'm also happy to answer those as well. So thank you all for joining us. It's great to see you here, and I look forward to talking with you. Margaret.
Thank you, Anselmo, and hello, everyone. I'm happy to be with you and see your names and boxes and faces for some of you. I am part of the International Studies Office. I am a Senior Education Abroad Advisor and Program Manager there. And yes, as Anselmo said, I've had the pleasure and the privilege to work with architecture programs for a number of years now. So I'm going to talk to you about in the context of the three programs we're discussing today, so Vicenza summer, Barcelona, and Venice in the fall, various aspects, including the application, financial aid and scholarships, pre-departure considerations, and I'll also, of course, give an update on where things stand at UVA with regard to international travel and COVID. So I'll be dropping links to resources in the chat as I'm talking. So this will test my multitasking, but I want you to have those so that you can look at them more closely on your own time. So there are two things that you need to do before you can open an application to a study abroad program. The first is to take the Education Abroad workshop. And so here we have the first link available. This is required before you can actually open an application. It provides important details about how education abroad at UVA works. And there's a quiz at the end, which you need to take for the completion to actually be logged in our application system. It's about half an hour of your time, but then once you do that, then you're able to go in and open applications. So the second thing that you need to do, of course, is to research and identify the program or the programs that you want to apply for. So I'm actually going to share my screen right now to show you how to find programs on our website, and then select one just to give you some idea of the kind of content that you can expect to find, the kind of resources. So you should see the Education Abroad homepage right now on my screen. Here we have just this kind of the hub of where you're going to find really everything about education abroad at UVA. But today I'm going to focus on this program section. So when you're looking for details about a particular program, there are two quick ways to get there. For these programs, one is to go to UVA programs, because these are programs that are offered through the University of Virginia, led by UVA faculty. Under semester and year, you can find the Venice and Barcelona programs. And under summer, you'll see Vicenza. The other way to navigate to programs is to use our program search feature. And you'll see here that there's a whole set of different parameters that you can use to search for programs, but I'm just going to type in architecture. And that's going to bring up the School of Architecture programs. So I'll look at Venice as an example. And I'm going to start with the dates and deadlines. So the application deadline for all three of these programs is March 1st, with a decision date of March 10th. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that means. For the Venice program, the start and end date are going to look a little funny here. Those are actually the dates of the UVA semester. And what we have here then highlighted are the actual travel dates for the portion of the Vicenza of the semester when you will be actually, traveling to Venice. So this is again for the Venice program, and these are the dates you would be in and traveling to Venice. For Vicenza and Barcelona, the start and end date will actually reflect the dates that you would be in country. It's just a little bit different because of how Venice is structured within the semester. But when you scroll down, you can see, again, an overview of the program, find information about, of course, the incredible location, the courses that you would be taking if you were to participate in this program in the semester, depending on which track you're in. Faculty you can contact with questions about the program, and then some additional details. So scrolling back up, I wanted to show you two more things, and then I'll jump out of here. The first is the budget sheet. So UVA programs where the budget is set by the University of Virginia and you're billed in CIS, those programs will have budget sheets, and this is going to tell you about program costs. So if I click in here, that's when I can see divided between in-state and out-of-state, the costs that are also then further divided by the billable subtotal and non-billable subtotal to then get your final total down here. Billable subtotal is billed through CIS, just as you're billed for regular semester tuition and fees. The non-billable tend to be estimates for things that you would need throughout the semester or throughout the program that are not billed to you by UVA, but still comprise elements of your daily life in the program. Additionally, please do scroll down and read the notes. They are helpful, I think, to explain what's included, and then provide some additional notes about other considerations. So for the Venice program, this is the costs for participation in the Venice program, which is in addition to your regular semester tuition and fees because of the way that program is structured. Going back out, then the last thing I want to show is just the apply button. And this is where then you would go to actually start an application. You can apply to up to 2 programs per term. You can only apply to one if you know that there's just one that you want. It's not like applying to college where you sort of have as wide a grouping as possible. So I'm going to stop sharing with that and just go into a little bit more detail about what the application comprises. Before I do that, though, here are links to each of the program's brochures. And again, the program brochure pages. So once you've opened an application, you can see all the requirements. They can all be completed online. Students who receive Pell Grants can submit a fee waiver for the application fee, and that can also be done via email. Within the application, your essay is the place where you can really show how the program that you've selected is a good fit for you in terms of your academic, career, personal goals, and so on. Vicenza additionally requires 2 academic recommendations, and Barcelona asks for a portfolio. So those are the kinds of elements that are really important when you are completing your application in terms of showing a strong candidacy for the program. Your application is complete once all of the requirements are marked as complete and the progress wheel is at 100%. There is no final submit button. All items must be submitted by 11:59 p.m. on the application deadline, which again is March 1st this year for all programs. Please do not wait until the last minute. There are always, there's always the possibility of just some hiccups. Your internet could be slow that day. There could be some technical difficulties with the site when it gets a lot of traffic. So please just don't wait till the last minute. Allow yourself the time to really be intentional and complete in the application that you submit. One particular item that I wanted to talk about a little bit is the passport copy, because some of these programs do ask for a passport copy. If you don't have a valid passport and your program asks for a copy, please do not upload a copy of an invalid or an old passport or of a passport application. Critically, that includes your social security number. So you do not want to share that beyond where it absolutely needs to go. If you do not have a passport, need to get on that right away, and I'll talk about that in a minute. A valid passport is one that does not expire for at least 6 months after your program ends. And that is the common requirement for many countries around the world. They want you to have that little extra space after you plan to leave the country at the conclusion of the program. So US passport issuance is one of the many things that we've seen be affected by COVID, and it has slowed markedly since the pandemic began. In fact, it had stopped altogether for a while, but it has restarted. Regular processing for US passports is now in the 10 to 12 week minimum range, which is longer than it used to be. And I actually anecdotally talked to a student yesterday or last week, and they gave her a range more in the 4 months period. So really please, if you are interested in any of these programs and you do not have a valid passport, please, this would be something to look at right now and to start moving on right away. And then you can also tell me so that I can make a note in your application. If a passport copy is a requirement and you do not have one at that time, that is not going to render you ineligible. It's just something that we need to be aware of. And again, it's important, critically important that you would be working on that right away. So here's a link to the State Department where they have details about how to get passports and what to expect during this time. So as I've indicated previously, the application deadline for all 3 programs is March 1st. The notification, so the application deadline is March 1st. The notification date is March 10th. That's the date on which you will find out if you were accepted, not accepted, or waitlisted to the program or programs you apply for. If you're accepted, you typically have until March 15th to commit. That is a financially binding decision unless the program is outright canceled due to COVID, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. However, depending on the conditions at that time, we might actually have a slightly later date, which we would communicate. And some of this kind of nebulous, this uncertainty, again, it goes back to trying to be as responsive as possible to current conditions related to the pandemic. If you're waitlisted, we'll monitor your the accepted status of students on that program. And if any decline, then we will move students off the wait list. The day after that final date to commit, we'll also rescind acceptance for any accepted students who haven't committed yet, and would then be able to move additional waitlisted students off the list if there's space. And then students accepted from the wait list would have their own similar timeframe for committing to the program. If you apply to multiple programs and are accepted to one and waitlisted for the other, please note that we cannot tell you the likelihood of your moving off the wait list. It's very dynamic, and sometimes we see programs where there's a lot of movement and sometimes little to none at all. So you have the full allotted time frame to commit to a program for which you've been accepted, but you may need to decide at some point between going abroad and then going abroad on your first choice program, which your biggest priority is. So switching gears, I'm going to talk about funding a little bit. There are 2 broad types of funding for study abroad. There's existing resources and new. The day after an application deadline, when we have our list of applicants, we'll tell Student Financial Services who has applied to a particular program. For students who are eligible for financial aid, SFS will conduct an assessment of individual eligibility, program costs, and will issue a revised aid package. They attempt to do so by that commitment deadline, so that students can make as informed a decision as possible about their participation. Right? We want you to have that information. Here's some resources about financial aid. The second link is to a chart which shows which types of existing aid are available by term. You'll see that more is transferable for semester than summer, for example. So there are those 2. Because we work primarily with undergraduate students, the information on our website is geared towards the undergraduate population. Graduate students, please use this link from SFS for information about financial aid eligibility. We recommend that all graduate students who use financial aid at UVA contact SFS with any questions. Sounds like also then Carolyn would be an additional resource as well, which is wonderful. So additionally, then that's existing resources. There are new resources. So scholarships for education abroad specifically are available from a range of sources. So there's School of Architecture funding with the application due to the School of Architecture on the same day as the program application deadline. Again, that's March 1st this year. So Carolyn is here from the Architecture Admission and Financial Aid Office if there are questions about the architecture funding as well. There are also ISO administered scholarships, which are administered by our office. We have a common app style approach for those. You complete one application to be considered for multiple awards, as many as you'd be eligible for. At present, none of those scholarships that are open to graduate students align with the locations of study for these School of Architecture programs. So this would be an opportunity for undergraduates primarily at this time. Other scholarships and more information generally can be found at the last link that I'm going to provide here. So there are 3 more coming to the Architecture Financial Aid, to our Common App, and then to our page about scholarships generally. There are several important things to be aware of in terms of preparation to study abroad, should you be accepted and the programs move forward. I talked previously about passports for US passport holders. One additional reminder for US passport holders, it's very important. All of these programs are less than 90 days in length. Barcelona is exactly 89 days. This is important because US passport holders can only be in the Schengen zone, and that's the Schengen zone. It's a grouping of most European countries, including Spain and Italy. So US passport holders can only be in that zone for 90 days within a 6-month period before needing a visa. So this means that US passport holders going to Barcelona need to travel on the exact program dates and have no other travel to the Schengen zone within 6 months before or after. Students on Venice or Vicenza need to carefully account for any other planned travel to the Schengen zone that would take place within 6 months before or after one of their one program. Non-US passport holders need to make sure their passports are valid within the necessary window. Talk to their ISSP, International Student and Scholar Program Advisor, about their plans and research visa requirements. We can help you with documentation, but then you would need to actually apply. Travelers to Italy who need a visa will need to apply at the consulate in Philadelphia. Travelers to Spain can apply at the consulate in DC. And here are some links directly to those resources. Yes, it is Philadelphia. I get that question a lot. For Virginia, outside of Northern Virginia, the consulate with our jurisdiction for Italy is in Philly. On acceptance, students will receive access to pre-departure modules covering important topics. You'll also be asked, you'll receive additional program details and attend a mandatory pre-departure meeting or meetings. And you'll be asked to submit some additional forms and requirements. If you're asked for housing preferences, we will make every effort to honor those requests. We can't guarantee them, but we really will try to make those work. We book group flights for Venice since students will already be here in Charlottesville on both sides of their time abroad. Students going to Vicenza and Barcelona do not book flights until I send you an email that says you may now book flights. And that's to make sure that everything is in order first. We do recommend that students booking their own flights consider trip insurance, and we have some additional information about that online. All students are enrolled in mandatory health and emergency insurance. This is included in the program fees and includes coverage for security evacuation, repatriation, et cetera, in addition to medical coverage. So now I'm going to speak briefly about COVID and include a final link to resources for you to review. The university policy on student international travel outlines how UVA makes decisions about university-related travel, including education abroad programs. There's currently a university travel restriction on all student international travel due to COVID-19 conditions, and that's currently effective through May 31st of this year. That may be extended. It has already been extended before, so it may be extended again. The decision is made by university leadership, and it means that students cannot participate in education abroad activities for university-related purposes during that time. At some point, and we don't know when, it's likely that the global restriction will be lifted, and then location-specific restrictions based on the Department of State or CDC advisories or specific university implemented restrictions will be reinstated as they were before COVID. Our COVID considerations page includes detailed information about expectations and current policies and procedures regarding COVID-19. It links to the university policy, the travel restriction, our withdrawal and refund policy, and details where things stand now. So please do take some time to review that, and I'll just drop that page into the chat. As it also explains, we are advising students to have a backup plan. So courses, housing, where would you live in case a program is canceled. Or for Vicenza and Barcelona in this case, since Venice would already have a semester of courses and be here for a good part of the semester. And also then we're advising that all students refrain from making non-refundable commitments as much as is possible. So if a program is canceled due to COVID, prior to departure, billable fees will be refunded to you, including application fees, but we cannot reimburse for non-billable expenses like airfare that you book on your own. So that's where holding off and then looking at things like trip insurance come into play. Students may also be asked to complete additional requirements or further actions in order to participate. There may be limits on independent travel or other activity. And as always, program itineraries are subject to change as conditions require. So we all, including and especially students, have been asked to be so flexible this year on so many things. Travel will resume. We know that, but we also know that it will look different, at least at the beginning. Education abroad is a critical endeavor, possibly now more than ever as we look at the world, but we do ask for your continued flexibility throughout the coming months. If you have questions and we don't get to them in this session, or you'd rather just connect with me one-on-one, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to, I guess these are my last links here, include my email address and also how you can set up an appointment to meet with me via Zoom throughout the week. So please do not hesitate to be in touch as questions come up, but hopefully we'll have some time for questions here once we all come back together.
But welcome. It's good to see all of you. And I'm very excited this year that Ali and I will be teaching the Venice program together. We're very much hoping that everything comes together with COVID and all to be able to do it this year. And we're just going to do a quick kind of 10-minute discussion of what we're going to be working on the next fall and a little bit about the program. And I wanted to first just mention the kind of structure of the semester, which Margaret alluded to in the introduction today. The program is one of the oldest programs at the university. It's been in many forms, and one of those forms that was particularly successful that we decided to revive a couple of years ago as the basic structure is that we actually travel to Venice for about 7 weeks, 6 to 7 weeks in the middle of the semester, which gives us some time before we go to do research, to get prepared, to understand what we're going to be studying, and to develop the beginnings of the kind of research and analysis toward the studio work that we'll be doing. And then that means the entire time that we're there, we spend in the field. We spend it on the road, we're traveling, we're walking, we're touring the city, we're visiting the sites. So that rather than really trying to recreate a kind of studio experience in Venice, we really take advantage of this intense time of study in the field while we're there for 6 weeks. And it's long enough that we can really begin to fall into the rhythms of the place and live in the city and get to know the culture and the characteristics of the city. And then when we come back at the end of October, we then have about 5 more weeks in the semester, and that becomes a very intense kind of period of production and studio work. And it's also a chance for us to really connect and anchor the program back in the culture of the school. So rather than disappearing for an entire semester, it's really a a research studio, and it falls within the structure of the research studio so that the program is open to all undergraduate and graduate students in their final year of study in any discipline. So I'm expecting that we will have quite a few students from many different disciplines. Last year, my apologies, we have 5 people working at home here, and the printer is in my office. So that happens every once in a while. So let me talk a little bit about why Venice, and a bit about the culture of the program. And I assume everyone can see my screen here. And the question is whether I can advance it, but here it goes. That it was started in the late 1970s by Mario de Valmarana. And welcome, Anselmo. I just gave an overview of the structure of the semester, just beginning to talk about the program itself. These pictures were taken back in the 1990s when Mario was still alive on the faculty.
That's a great pick, Bill.
I was a lot younger then. I've been involved in the program since 1995, and so have taught there about 6 times now in the program, as well as visiting a number more than that. Mario's family home is the Villa Rotonda by Palladio, and so we get a special visit there and able to also have a kind of deeper cultural connection through the Valmarana family with the landscapes of the Veneto and the city of Venice. The city itself, as I think you all know, is in the middle of the lagoon, connected by a causeway that you see up here on your left. An incredible, dense, rich, probably one of the, if you want to say one of the densest reservoirs of culture per square mile in the world, but also one of the most threatened places in the world, sitting in this very fragile landscape at the Venetian lagoon. Just while we had this up, the place where we will be living is right over in this part of Venice. We will the city will be our studio and our laboratory. It's all walkable. It's about a 20-minute walk, 25-minute walk across the city. And as you know, there are no cars in the city. The travel is either by boat or foot throughout the city. So you learn to live in a very different way, in a very different part of the, a very different culture and a very different way of being in the world. And being there for 6 weeks in a very different view of Venice than the tourist might get. Venice, you can see it over in the lower right corner over here, is also part of a much larger network that of the Veneto. Over on the left is Vicenza, Padua, and many cities in between that. We will visit several of these cities, as well as you can see on the top edge of this image, the edges of the Dolomites, the kind of pre-Alps right here, and they go up from there into much steeper. And we do include a trip up into the Alps so that we can understand kind of viscerally the entire section from the mountaintops to the lagoon, which it takes place within a very short distance across. Venice is also a crossroads of the Mediterranean historically, and crossroads of the world today. So that the actual reference for what constitutes Venice is one that we will be exploring quite a bit, and Ali will talk a bit about that in terms of the kind of research agenda, the studio that we'll be pursuing this fall. It's one that in this landscape that the Venetians have really been engineering this world and working with the dynamic forces of nature for about the last 1,000 years to construct this place in the most improbable of locations. And we'll get into both the history of that relationship, but also some of the really incredible inventions. For instance, Venetians realizing very early that they had to manage their forests sustainably. They figured this out in the 16th century, both because they needed the wood, because the entire city is built on wooden pilings, and much of the structure of the beams in the houses and the churches is all wood. So wood is an essential material, but it's also to protect the water supply and the water source. So there were extraordinary ways that Venetians were very sensitive to the relationship between the city and its environment. A great deal to learn from for us in that study. In terms of the modern lagoon, understanding the forces, the flows, the character, the changes, how this millennium of engineering continues today in understanding what it takes to actually produce a site, the plausible site for a city, which is of course challenged by things like sea level rise. But it has a lot in common with many other coastal cities around the world, so that there are lessons to be drawn from Venice that can be applied anywhere. But it is a unique and rich and extraordinary landscape. I'm kind of circling around and then zooming into the city here, these views across the lagoon and understanding the rich ecosystems and Venice's relationship to it. It's also, as you can get a sense in this picture, something of an industrial landscape, and you can see the proximity of the mountains. These actually aren't the Alps. These are the Euganei Hills behind Padua, about 20 miles away from where this photograph's taken, from the top of the Campanile at San Giorgio. But you get the sense of this as a highly constructed landscape, and one that's been drawing its materials and building its literally building the city from the site. This is from students' work this past fall that was analyzing where Venice comes from and where the quarries are, where the materials come from. It's also an incredible repository of art, and unlike visiting works of art in a museum where you may be used to seeing work historically, the art in Venice is in situ. It's in the churches. It's in the, so all the way from understanding the relationship between the architecture of the Church of the Frari and the painting by Titian over the altarpiece, the Assumption at over the altarpiece, and understanding those relationships. There are many, many layers to understand the city historically and culturally, but it's also a contemporary city. And in this, we can understand that its urban systems are quite vital. They are very apparent. They are not to be taken for granted. They are not hidden in the way that other systems may be in cities. And because they've all been having to be reinvented for its unique condition, it actually becomes a fantastic study in what constitutes these kinds of urban systems and how they work. And again, this view from the floods last year that struck Venice is one that's having to adapt in ways that are highly unexpected and critical. So students, and these are images from student sketchbooks and drawings, spend the semester studying, sketching, drawing. This section in the lower left is actually a section from a mountaintop in the Alps down to the lagoon, looking at original scale, looking at a building scale, or looking at the city scale, all the way to building scales, details. And in fact, this was one student project down to the construction of an artifact that was a multi-dimensional handle that students could work with. So the work that we'll be doing this semester will cut across those scales and understand the kind of cultural, physical, political connections between them all. Whoops, I'm going to. Understanding the structure of a city that has a form that is unlike most Western cities, which begin with a kind of infrastructure and build from there. Venice builds from the building out according to a set of rules that's critical to understand. And it has an incredibly rich sort of relationship between the public spaces of the city and the building fabric of the city. And understanding the kind of, while the rules may not be literally formal rules, they are kinds of cultural norms that we can research and analyze and understand. And I'm going to turn over to Ali for a few minutes to jump in and talk a little bit about these scales of research and some of what we'll be doing in relation to some of the larger research agendas. I will also mention, just before Ali jumps in, that there are two other faculty members who will be working with us. Monica Shinuda is a graduate of Architecture History program and will be teaching History of Art and Architecture of Venice with us in Venice, along with a few Zoom lectures before and after. And Sandro Biza, who is a an architect and urban planner in Venice, becomes our kind of local person on the ground, knows many people. We've had conversations already with Venice, a city planning agency, and much of what we'll be working out in terms of the details of our studies and our research will be done in coordination with groups and entities in Venice, in the city. So Ali, if you'd like to say a few words.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Welcome, everyone. So Bill, feel free to cycle through these images. They're in no particular order as I'm talking. But I just wanted to talk about some of the themes that we've been discussing as drivers for the kind of research, the kind of work, and the kind of analytic work that we will be doing in Venice. Three main themes have emerged. One of them is really understanding Venice's relationship to not only its region, but also globally. It's always been a point of exchange between the East and the West, and its culture, its spaces, its kind of a particular form of urbanization are very much informed by this exchange. And it's also a site that continues to be a point of exchange, you know, through the Venice Biennales of art and architecture, and in general, its kind of cultural position globally. So that's one.
Let me just interrupt for a second, Ali, so that you know the images are examples from work that does the kind of mapping, not of Venice, but from other studios, but are some of the kinds of projects that we may be doing, the kinds of mappings, the kind of analysis that we'll be doing focused on Venice, where the examples are from other studios.
Exactly. So these are thanks, Bill. That's a good point. These are kind of examples from previous studios that I've taught, or some of my own kind of research work and colleagues' work. So they're just here as kind of examples of the type of initial work we'll be doing to kind of situate Venice within its kind of larger context. So if the first theme is on, you know, this kind of position of Venice as a point of exchange, the second theme is, you know, the relationship that the core of the city, the historical core, which most of what has been said about Venice has been concentrated on, to its periphery, right? And we have this kind of extended understanding of urbanization and the processes that go into building up of Venice. So looking at it, whether it is the mainland portion, right, the agricultural lands surrounding those areas, or as Bill was showing, its relationship to the Alps. On the other side, its relationship to the lagoon, to the sea, and the Adriatic Sea beyond. So it's really a kind of regional cross-section look at the relationship from sea to the mountains, right? And how the core of Venice is situated and positioned within that relationship. And finally, the third theme for us will be kind of relationships between climate change, environmental degradation, not only through the guise of sea level rise, but also through the kind of cultures, ways of living, and the specific types of urban life that it begins to promote. Venice, you know, has always been a water city, obviously from its makeup, but also through its relationship to flooding events. For example, there is a very specific culture of dealing with the kind of dynamics of water that makes it a specific fluid type of urban living, right? And it's a fluidity that we can learn a lot from, especially as cities globally are going through, you know, dealing with environmental, issues, whether it is sea level rise or increasing storms or heat island effect and so on. So for us, Venice is actually a really interesting case study to see how these issues have been historically dealt with within the city and within its particular forms of urbanization. And so all these three themes will coalesce into a kind of multi-year research project, you know, that each year will have obviously its own specific sites and specific aims. But it allows students to develop their own projects within the intersection of these themes. And it really allows for this multidisciplinary conditioning of the course, which allows landscape architects, planners, or historians to really kind of sharpen their own skills, but also interact with other disciplines to really bear upon some of these issues that that we can kind of observe in Venice, but also are applicable to other places globally as well.
Okay. Okay, so just, whoops. Just quickly here, there's a few last slides, then we want to open it up for questions, any discussion. Just some images of students in past programs. For instance, learning about glass blowing and being able to do a little bit of it themselves. Visits to the archives, visits into the lagoon. We are also working on a collaboration that will be involved with the Venice Biennale, and that may involve work in the lagoon. Here's a trip inside the archives. That's actually a 16th century copy of Palladio's books that students are leafing through here. Get to go to the markets, get to shop, get to live in Venice, get to cook for yourselves, and also have gatherings, eating and dining together, either in small groups or at times in larger groups gathered. It's a really extraordinary kind of experience. And one of the things about Venice that I think everyone who goes on the program, and many of our alumni talk about this, is really understanding a kind of a culture and the connection between a way of life, between the food, between the architecture, between all of the elements of the culture. So we will stop here and then and open up for any questions that you all have. Lee or Timothy?
I'm trying to think of a question. I didn't really come in with a lot, so I don't know. Yeah, I kind of came just really curious because I've always been interested and kind of fascinated with Venice, not knowing really anything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's one of the wonderful things about it, I think, for many people is what you just described is actually quite typical of many students. They don't know a whole lot about Venice, and sometimes some students may have visited when they were younger and got a very quick tourist view of the city or something, or some have never been there at all. And apologies, our dog has decided to be very lively this evening. And so it is really an extraordinary opportunity to get to know another place with real depth and to spend the time to not be a tourist, to become a kind of semi-resident for a period of time. And to, we will be making some connections with the university in Venice. So that's one of the things that Sandro Biza has been talking about, and he teaches there part-time in addition to being an architect and an urban planner. Connecting to students from Venice, getting to know, in fact, the dorm where we stay, well, I call it a dorm, it feels a bit like a dorm, but it's also is built actually as housing. A portion of it is housing for students from Venice and some from other countries. So it's a good chance to get to know people, not just be stuck with the group within your program.
I actually, I just thought of a question.
Sure.
I was gonna ask you guys if I only have a couple minutes because I'm in class at 6, but if you guys would want to quickly share like maybe your favorite thing about this program and why it's different from other programs and why it this is something that you're passionate about.
I'll let you feel that, Bill.
This will be Ali's first time teaching in the program, and I was in that position about 20 years ago when the first time I did it, and it's become actually a very deep part of my life since then. And to me, it is actually this sense of connection between, number one, across scales, that you really can't separate any decision that's being made at any one scale from decisions that are happening at other scales. So that's one aspect, is the interconnectedness of everything from a way of living to a way of building to a way of constructing a city. All of those things connect to each other. The thing that still fascinates me most about Venice, and it's one of the things we will be exploring within the program, is the unique and extraordinary spatial structure of Venice. It has a human scale that is unlike any other place that I've been, all the way down to even the paving stones are designed so that two people with a pick can get at the utilities underneath, so they don't have to bring in jackhammers and tear things up. Almost the entire city, you realize, was trucked in wheelbarrows and built by hand, and all of the spaces, because there isn't the same kind of delineation of public and private and infrastructure versus building, but the public space weaves in and out of and through the buildings. There's a kind of, think about it as a topological complexity that just gives you the sense of layers and layers and layers of depth. You think you understand the city, but then there's another labyrinth, in a sense, to go into even deeper. So that sense of a kind of infinite labyrinth that is, in some ways, I think, unique in the world. And it gives you a different sense of place and a different perception of the possibilities of architecture.
I think, one of the reasons I was very much interested in kind of teaching in this program was its position, right? Not only do you see it as part of a kind of global city network, but you also see a lot of the issues, I would say majority of the issues that cities across the world are going through. So in that case, coupled with its historical position as this kind of in between, as this gateway from east to west, it becomes really interesting to see how those challenges have been addressed, right? And within the contemporary gaze, within the contemporary conditions, how those issues can be addressed, in an alternative.
Yeah. And something I do want to emphasize is that we're looking at Venice as a model of possibilities for the future. There is a kind of way of life, of resilience, a capacity to learn from Venice and apply to the future, apply that to the future. It's not we actually see the Vicenza program as more the historically focused program, and the Venice program is more the future-facing program. And that's, while you have to understand the future, you learn many things from the past, but it really is studying the city as a contemporary phenomenon.
Awesome.
I think the other thing is really the structure of the program, right? The fact that the 6 weeks that you're there, it really allows you to kind of integrate into the daily life, but also you have a couple of weeks in the beginning here and then 3 or 4 weeks at the end back to Charlottesville. So you do get to see Venice both as an outsider, but also as someone that could potentially live there, right?
It's really understanding yourself as a researcher in a way.
Absolutely, yeah.
Timothy, you've unmuted. Did you have a question?
I was just curious. I know kind of we go from Charlottesville to Venice and everything, and what's like the scale or the idea of the studio work coming back? Is it like an urban planning, or is it kind of a historic preservation, or like is it small scale projects, or what's kind of the scope, I guess, with that?
The structure of the semester will be a series of kind of modules, and they will vary in scale and scope. So the intention is that people build up through a kind of recurring set of programs, recurring set of projects through the semester, that you build up a range of this, studying at all these scales. So be working at the urban scale and urban analysis. We'll also be working at the building scale, at landscape interventions in the lagoon, and potentially working all the way to the scale of an artifact or an object. With the way we're expecting it to play out is that different students may take on a different emphasis over the course of the semester, where at the end, and the way that you tie things together, you may find yourself, if you're more interested in the kind of urban scale issues, that you focus there. If you're more interested in a building scale, you may focus there. But we'll be setting up within the kind of outline of themes that Ali was setting up, that there would be that there's an opportunity for students to kind of tailor their involvement in relation to research they may be working on toward their thesis, or focusing, in the past we've had students from all 4 departments in the school, and more focused on history, some more focused on landscape issues, and some on urban planning issues or larger issues of urban design. So we build the program with there is a flexibility in the structure to allow the students to develop their own topics as they pursue it. It's not like a traditional studio where everybody gets the same project and they just work on it all semester. It's in a way somewhat like a thesis studio, but the city as a catalyst to that. But within the framework of a kind of overarching research agenda that we are working on in collaboration with the city of Venice and others there.
Yeah, and I think the faculty that we have, covering things from history to urban analysis to architecture and kind of design of artifacts, I think it allows for that telescopic nature of the studio, right? That it really kind of leaves it open for each student to kind of really develop their own interest and kind of ideas within the framework of the larger themes.
Right.
And I just want to say, as we're sort of running out of time, that for those who are watching this video later, because you may have been at one of the other sessions and you want to come back, or you weren't able to be here this evening, to please be in touch with me or Ali to answer. We're happy to answer any questions, and happy to go into more detail about any aspect of the program that people may have questions about. It's partly an intimate conversation with a couple of people here, but hopefully a larger conversation as the video lives on.
Well, thank you very much. This is exciting. I mean, I think one of the drawing things about Venice program is that you can kind of do a couple different things and not kind of just doing one studio idea. Like you can take on an urban planning, you can do, like, that's why I was curious about what like the final project say at the end is. It can kind of be anything throughout the research.
Yeah, the final presentations very often are in a way cumulative, based on the body of work, and they are also bringing what may have been a whole series of different projects that one did through the semester, bringing them and tying them together as an argument, and making something coherent out of the different ways that you've been studying and working throughout the semester. So again, it's not like this is where it really takes advantage of the format of the research studio, rather than thinking of it like a core design studio where everybody's producing a variation on the same building program.
Right.
It's a different kind of studio, and we really do try to take advantage of that structure. In fact, and it's funny, I remember when teaching this with Mario, he actually wouldn't ever meet at the same time that studio met in the afternoon, just to make it clear that we're going to be taking advantage of the fact that we're free of the normal constraints of a 15 credit semester and all of the blocks of time to actually take advantage of the place and the time and the people and the trips on our own terms throughout the semester. And that travels all the way to the way that we structure our research and take on as 15 credits worth of a semester, but it doesn't fall into the usual patterns and categories.
I was just saying that, so my name is Manuel Bailo, and I will be really happy to have all of you in Barcelona, also Anselmo and Margaret.
Thank you. I think that's the first time I've been invited. I'm glad we're recording this session, because I don't remember ever being invited.
You just have to apply, Anselmo. You just have to.
Okay, I'm going to work on my portfolio right now.
Okay. Yeah, so I have here a really short PowerPoint. Let me have that. That is gonna a little bit. Oh, let's see. I'm gonna share my screen. No, that's not the one. This one. Yes. So I'm going to explain really briefly what is this program about. So this is going to be the fifth edition, I think. And as what Anselmo said in his presentation, I totally agree with him about the idea of how important it is for architects, students to be traveling, you know, and to have the experience of visiting the places that probably you have seen or that probably you have studied, no? And then to check, no? To check with your body and to feel and to have the experience of the space, because finally what we do as architects is to design places, design spaces, places to stay, yeah. And that's why it's really important to travel, and to go to different places, to learn from traveling. That's why for architects, and if you look to the different important architects in the history, all of them, they have been traveling a lot, taking notes, making drawings, making projects, doing designs. And that's why we totally trust that it's really important. It's really important for your education to be traveling. And fortunately, in our school, we have these beautiful connections with Europe. So, and one of these connections is Barcelona, or Spain. And Barcelona, it's a really, I think it's a really interesting city because you will have experience of discovering modern architecture, old architecture, and at the same time to understand how important is the architecture to build the identity of the city. And this is something that is really, it's really special, I think, in the case of Barcelona. Probably in the case of the European cities, because that means that the architecture and the public space, it's something that goes absolutely together, you know? It's something that builds something really special, which is the European city, which it's the public space and architecture defines the city. And in the case of Barcelona, here that's a satellite image of Barcelona. In the case of Barcelona, this is a really dense city, one of the most densest city in the world. Of course, there are a lot of other cities that are more populated than Barcelona, of course. But the geography of the city, having the sea, the mountain, and the two rivers. So there's a mountain here which is called Montaña de Collserola, then the ocean, then one river on the right-hand side, and another river here, the Besós River. Defines a really compact city. And this compacity, this density, also creates this really special condition that totally mix the architecture with the public space. And this is something that after taking this program, I'm totally convinced that you will design your projects will be different. I'm absolutely absolutely convinced about that. Because you will understand this really interesting condition of mixing architecture with public space creating the city. And this is what we try to explain in this program. I have been teaching in the School of Architecture of Barcelona for 15 years before I came to the UVA, and I was professor, associate professor of the urban design department. So that means that what we will be doing here in Barcelona, and also when I was in the UVA, when I was living in Charlottesville, we recover the urban design certificate. Okay? So this is a program that is related with the urban design certificate because we will be having classes about urban design and also about public spaces. And all of these classes will be covered, or will be the credits will work for your urban design certificate in case that you are taking the certificate. So we will be having 4 different classes, and all of them will be related with this condition of understanding the relationship between architecture, public space, and the city. And Barcelona has this condition, has this condition of mixing, to understand that this is a condition of mixing different types of architecture. That is what defines this really particular city. Having historical buildings. This is the case of La Sagrada Familia, which is a building that is under construction for more than 150 years, and it's not finished. Yeah, Fatih knows a lot about this building. No, because because you were not taking the studio, but I was also explaining a little bit in our public space class last semester. But Barcelona has this interesting and beautiful condition of mixing different types of architectures from different moments and defining this compact condition. So probably one of the easiest thing to see what is the program about is to go to the Instagram account, which is this one, UVA Barcelona. I will recommend you to, just to have a look. And you will see the different, of course, the slides of the program. So the program has, the quality of the instructors, the reviews, the talks, the lectures, the visits are amazing, are absolutely amazing. All of the best instructors, the best architects are all invited in the program, and all of them, they are glad to come. Yeah, they are really generous, and they look at this. This is for example, the final review. This is Manuel, who is a really important professor. This is Jose Maria Torres Nadal, who is another really important architect. Rosa Rull, is an amazing architect. Jose Miguel Roldan, who is another amazing architect, a really important professor in Barcelona. That was for the final review. And that's the final review was taking place in my office. Yeah? So you will have also the possibility of some days we will be having class in my office. So you will see different offices, and also you will be able to be working in my place too. In this case, this year we were doing the final review in this, I think, beautiful place. And also Ayla Berman was here for the final review. So you will have really important lectures. What we do, it's also different types of trips. This, for example, one of the most important public space designs done in Europe for the last years, and we visited that. This is in Banyoles, close to Barcelona. It's a really beautiful project with the water inside the city. Well, we will go again. So last year we also had another beautiful experience because we met with the students of UC, no, Barcelona program, participating charity with the program from UC Architecture. I think UCLA. I think it's from Los Angeles, and then also from other schools. So you will be also able to be meeting with other schools of architecture from the States, also from Barcelona too, and we will have we will organize workshops together. So you will have also the chance to meet other other students from other places in the world. This is another type of activities that we used to do, which is to be visiting important offices of architecture. This is Josep Luis Mateo. And then he also made a real interesting lecture for us, but we were also visiting his office. So he was explaining also the different projects. You will have also this opportunity to be visiting different offices in the city. So the lectures are really important. The quality of the different professors, architects who will be invited in the program is amazing. We will be also be visiting some buildings under construction too. This is a house that I was building when we had this group of students from the UVA. We were visiting this house. That's another kind of activity that we do. Yeah. The classes. This is a class about that is taught by Celia Marin, is this person who is here, and she is a specialist about Gaudí. So she will be explaining the relationship between Gaudí and the modern architecture. So this is a really interesting class because you will understand the relationship between this really genius architect who was Gaudí and the relationship between what he made and what we do today. This is, I think, a really interesting class taught by Celia. And she used to do every 2 weeks a trip in the city. So that is what we call Friday trips with Celia, which are really, really nice afternoons with Celia. But also you will have the class with her. This is another type of trip that we do inside the city of Barcelona. This is La Mercat, the market of La Barceloneta, really beautiful building done by an architect who was also making a lecture in the program some years ago. And then you see that we have, this is a program that is open to graduate students and undergraduate students too, but is also open to landscape students, planning students, and also history from the history department. So that's why we have, this is a studio that we made 2 years ago, I think, in Las Glorias. That was an amazing, really beautiful project done by landscape students. They were working with the idea of the block in the city, but instead of being built by buildings, was built by trees in this case. No? So, and they were working with that. This is the main idea. No? So you see here the block, and then how the block was translated in the way how instead of working with buildings, they were working with trees. Yeah? but if you take your time on the with the Instagram, you will see the quality of the projects. I think all the works are amazing. And another thing that I think also it's really important, that the students are also really, I think, really happy with the program. Let me show you. I think there are some videos at the end of the Instagram. I think so. Let me see. I don't know if it's possible to hear the microphone. Let's see. Here, that's another visit with Benedetta Tagliabue, another important office. She was really nice. This is when she was showing us, she also has an exhibition room. Let me see if I can find videos from the different students. I think. That's also important. You will have really good meals, okay? That's really important too. So your stomach will be really happy with you, because you will be able to have really beautiful meals, and really cheap too. Let me see. I want to just find these videos. Yeah, for example, this one. I don't know if you can hear that. No, that's not possible. But you can have a look in the Instagram, so you will see these guys talking about the program, and I think they were really, really, really happy with the program. So please have a look. What else? Then this is different types of visits to the construction sites of different buildings that I'm doing right now. So that these are the buildings that I was building that year. I also want to explain you videos. Then there's also another important and beautiful thing about Barcelona is the beach, of course. So all the students, they really like to go to the beach. I'm just looking for a nice video, but yes, this year, so the previous year we were visiting Venice, but this year we are going to go, instead of going to Venice, we are going to go to Amsterdam. Yeah, so that's another interesting thing, that from Barcelona, every well, not all the cities, but compare with the States, everything is really close. Yeah? So for example, to go from Barcelona to Paris is 2 hours, flying. But to go to Amsterdam, probably it's 1 hour and 30 minutes. So this next year, we have prepared a trip to Amsterdam. I think I'm talking too much. So if you have some questions, I will be happy to answer. But that's it. Let me go just for a second again to the PowerPoint to see if there's something else. Of course, the modern architecture is really important. The Mies Pavilion, the Mies Barcelona Pavilion, it's really important. Here is Benedetta. Then we will be having visits with bicycles in the city. We'll be having these tours in different beautiful buildings of modern architecture in Barcelona. And then, of course, we are going to have beautiful meals together. The classes, these are the 4 classes that we have: the studio, the history class, the urban history. This is about the Gaudí legacy that I was explaining, and this is about public space. And then if you look to the ISSU Barcelona program, you will be able to see the books. Let me see, the books that are collecting these previous years. So you will be also able to look to that and to have a better idea of what is this program about. Okay, so that's all. I think I have been talking too much. Sorry, that was too much. Margaret. That's it. Do you have any questions?
We still have about 5 or 6 minutes, so go ahead if there's something that you would like to ask.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Thank you for sharing. I enjoyed that presentation. If you could you explain sort of what the coursework looks like during the program?
So, well, let me tell you two different things. So one thing is, first is that in this program, what we do is that we are doing our classes inside the School of Architecture of Barcelona. Okay, that's one thing. But I think it's important because we will not be isolated, you know, in one room in Barcelona. You know, what we will be doing is to be having classes inside one School of Architecture, which is a really important one. Yeah, that's the first thing. The second thing is all the professors are really good professors, are really good friends too, and all of them are they are really well known as instructors. So I totally trust in what they explain, and I'm sure that you will really enjoy. And at the same time, you will also learn a lot through the pleasure of learning. You know, and well, that's also important. And then so the classes is the classes are here. You see, so we have a research studio that has 6 credits. Then we have this class about the legacy of Gaudí, which is also 3 credits. Then we have a history class, urban history about Barcelona, how the city was created, the grid, the medieval city, how this relationship between the medieval city and the grid, and then the modern projects done during the last years in the city. This is what is explained in this history class. And then there's this other class about public space, which is how the city was rebuilt, you know, in the 80s, using the public space as the tool of how the city was redesigned. This is a class that is taught by me, the public space class. Then the research studio is also taught by me. The Gaudí's class is taught by Celia Marin, and the Barcelona history class is taught by Pep Parcerisas and Álvaro Clua. And this is how the program is organized with the credits and the classes.
Manuel, do you want to say briefly how the studios are different or the same, you know, what the sort of characteristics are for the research studios and hours of access and space and things like that, how that's can be a little different?
But I'm sorry, I don't understand. What do you mean the difference?
So the research studio, the time and the spaces that students have for studio work.
Well, yeah, so we used to have 2 days a week of class that the studio takes 5 hours, more or less. Then we have also with ISO and ISA, which is the office that help us to organize all of the different events in the city in Barcelona. So ISA, they will organize a place to, well, with ISO too, a place for living, yeah, a housing place. I'm talking about that because inside the housing, we will also have a place for having classes too. Sometimes, we will not be moving to the School of Architecture, and we will be staying in the residency. But this next year, I'm also thinking that the last month we will be having classes in another place that you will be able to stay as long as you want, because in the School of Architecture of Barcelona, that's a public university, and what we do is to rent the classrooms for hours. So when we will finish the class, then we will have to leave. That's why I think the last part of the program, which is the last month and a half probably, we will be in a place that you will be able to stay as long as you want to. Also, sometimes we are having these classes too in your residency. But I think it's beautiful to have also this, as what I was explaining in the beginning, to understand better this relationship between the architecture, the city, is to be walking along, to be walking a lot in the city, and that means that to take the public transportation to go to one. So the city, it's in a small city, compared with New York, for example. So you can be walking from one stream to the city to the other stream of the city in 3 hours. Yeah. But the public transportation is really good, so you can do that in 30 minutes with the Metrolink. And the experience of going from your place to the place that you're having classes, I think it's also a really good way to learn this thing that I was talking about, the relationship between architecture, public space, and the city. That's why the place of the classes and the place of the residency are a little bit far away one from the other. Yeah?
Okay, can everybody see this?
Yes.
Yellow thing. Okay, so Vicenza is a program that is a little bit different from the rest because you are used to be multitasking all the time in the school, and in the international programs is more or less the same. You have many things to do, and in Vicenza, in fact, it's a program that you are allowed to devote all your time to only one thing, that is drawing. So you are going to learn how to draw and spend as much time as we need to teach you how to draw. Of course, we have like a secondary aim in the program, that is to immerse you in the Italian culture, the architecture of Italy, but it's something that is going to happen because you are drawing these things. So I'll try to make a presentation through the drawings of the students, okay, from 2 years ago. Okay, so we are going to try to see how you can develop that skill and at the same time have the presentation. Okay, so this is the headquarters that we are going to have in Vicenza. This is the Casa San Bastiano. It is very close to the most famous villas, Palladian villas, and at the same time it's very close to the city, to the core of the city. It's like 10 minutes walking. We're going to walk a lot in this program. It has like a lot of exterior spaces, so in case we need to stay outside most of the time, we can do it. Okay, there's like a great terrace there. The students like a lot to hang around there. So in the program, we're going to visit 3 cities. Normally, I mean, this is like the plan that we have when everything is okay. No? We don't have like COVID restriction. That is all these cities. We are going to move a lot. We are going to walk a lot, but we are going to use also trains and private buses. So we're going to hire a bus to move to some of these places. Okay, and depending on the COVID, probably we are going to restrict this more or not restrict this at all. No? So depending on the conditions that we have. Okay, so you see that we are going to be here. We are going to be in this line, more or less. from Venice, Padova, Vicenza, and Verona. This is the train that we are going to use all the time. Okay, so it's like it's a train that is like 20 minutes from Vicenza to Verona and 40 minutes from Vicenza to Venice. So we are going to be able to travel. It's very cheap. It's like we are going to have like a ticket for you for the week. And normally you have to pay for it. If you want to pay for it in the weekends, you can have like a ticket for six euros, I think this is. So it's like very inexpensive completely. Okay. So traveling is very, very easy there. Let me clean up this. Okay, so we're going to visit Venice. We're going to visit Verona.
Yeah, several times. We used to go to Venice at least 1 or 2 times each week. So in each trip, we're focusing in a different issue or a different part of the city. Or...
Normally, we establish like a topic for the day, and we work with you. We are going to be sitting with you most of the time, drawing. Okay, so the plan is going to different cities and draw the city, draw the things that we see in the city. No? For example, this is the Lago di Garda, Cagnana, Treviso, Mantova. Okay, you are going to have 3 weekends. So during the weekends, you are free to do whatever you want. You are going to go to the Biennale. We are going to have the tickets for you for the Biennale. Okay, but this year is the Architecture Biennale, so we are going to have the possibility of seeing a lot of architecture besides the pavilions of the Biennale. Okay, and during the weekends, normally you can travel everywhere you want in Italy, as long as you remain in Italy. Okay, so people go to Rome or go to Lago di Garda, depending on the conditions of the COVID, we are going to allow for that or not. Okay, so it's like there is some kind of uncertainty here, but the plan is to allow you to go everywhere during the weekends. We are going to have theory classes. Theory is like applied theory, so we are going to make exercises about drawing for you to understand the basics of the diedric system, the conic system, or the perspective, or the axonometric system. So you understand what you are doing. Okay, it's not going to be a very hard theory class. It's going to be like half an hour, but we think that is very useful for you to understand why you do things in the way that you are doing. No? So it's a system that you have to learn. And once that you learn it, it's very easy. It's like riding a bike. No? You never forget how to make a perspective. Okay, we are going to ask for 140 drawings from you during the program. So this is the minimum amount of drawings that you are going to make. Don't be scared. It's not too much. I mean, there are like 4 drawings a day or something like that. Okay, so the things that you are going to be all the time drawing, so it's like 7 hours a day, drawing. We are going to, it's not like super exhausting. You are going to be sitting like in a very interesting environment, like having the time to draw. We are going to be with you. You can sit in a coffee shop or something and just draw. Okay? So these are some of the drawings of Venice. This is from Vicenza. This is Vicenza again.
It's a little bit delayed. What he's saying is not corresponding with the drawing that you're seeing.
This is Murano.
Yeah, you're saying Murano and we're seeing another thing.
Okay, we can just go over. And the program is 6 credits. Okay, so it's like a studio. So that's very important for you because you are going to be able to get 6 credits for that. And that's why it's so intense. I mean, it's like, okay, you need to for these 6 credits, you need to work and make all these drawings. But of course, we are going to have like visits to different like cultural venues and like visit a lot of monuments, hopefully inside, I mean, if we can, okay, it depends again on the conditions, but hopefully we are going to visit a lot of museums and a lot of like cultural things. So you get immersed in this kind of Italian cultural environment. Okay? And of course, you are going to have a lot of time to hang around. It's intense, but at the same time, you are going to have a lot of time and a lot of meetings. For example, we make a daily like desk read or a daily session after dinner or before dinner, depending on the time. and we like show the drawings to everybody, and we like share the experience, and we have like a good time. It's an intense program, but at the same time, it's like very, like rewarding, because you like spend time like hanging around with your friends. So it's a program that is not focused only in architecture. It's architecture, landscape, urban planning, and architectural history. We are going to make a lot of visits, for example, to the museum of Palladium Museum in Vicenza, but we are going to visit, for example, a lot of gardens, a lot of landscape landmarks in Italy. Okay, for example, that is like a amazing garden that is called Giardino Balsamvidio, sorry. That is, you cannot imagine how beautiful it is. It's like incredible place. Okay, so we have like a lot of people from landscape, and they actually made a very good like semester, a very good like program. No? They draw like exceptionally well.
Yeah, and also we have been in the program with the students from history or urban planning, and doesn't matter, because we're starting since the beginning, from 0 level, so everybody can catch it.
So you don't need to know how to draw, okay? You don't need to have any experience previous to that. We only recommend you to have like 2 courses, but it's just a recommendation, it's not needed. It's not required, so there is no requirements to go to Vicenza. So we recommend you to take up a course on Italian culture and another on drawing, which are limited. But if you don't do it, it's okay, completely okay. You can start from scratch, and you are going to do it well. So don't worry about that. Okay, so it's a little bit scary to see these drawings, but don't worry, you will get to that point. Okay, at the end of the program. Okay, and of course, we're going to see a lot of architects, not only Palladio, that is going to be the center of this, but so we're going to visit a lot of Palladian buildings, of course, villas, and we're going to see also Scarpa, like more modern architecture, like this, that is like the cemetery of Scarpa, or like this Scarpa work as well. Or we're going to see another architects like Alberti, Leonardo Battista Alberti, San Andrea de Mantova, or other architects like the ones that you see in your left. Okay, all these architects are going to be included in the program, and we are going to visit buildings from these architects. Okay, Cadusi, this is, for example, the Scuola Grande di San Giovanni, the Mauro Cadusi. Okay, and the goal is that at the end, of course, you have a great time there, but at the end, you become like some kind of drawing freak. You cannot live without drawing. Okay. And this happens sometimes. So these are drawings after that some students did after the program. So they have like this kind of moment and this kind of impulse in that moment, and they couldn't stop drawing, and they keep drawing like after the program, like everything that they were seeing, they were drawing and drawing and drawing to understand things, because the point of this is that you draw to understand things. Okay? And some of the students, even they make some kind of businesses there in Vicenza. This is Tommy Miller, that they, with other students, they did this sticker for a wine company in Vicenza, and they earn some money for that. Okay? So you can even like create your own like labels.
They were just, it's like, it looks scary as in the way in which Luis talked about the program, but it's not like that. We're walking a lot, so we're also sitting a lot during the day, and is this the time where you're drawing, after you're starting to draw you're by yourself after the visit or inside the visit, because we used to draw the buildings that we're visiting. We're going to have dinner always in the house, in La Casa, and you're free to have lunch, whatever you want during the day trip. We used to arrive at the house 1 hour before dinner. It's then when we start with the desk read, the daily desk reads. We used to see what everybody is doing every day, but not only in this desk read where everybody is sitting around the same table. Usually we're also moving all the time, helping you with the drawings that you're doing at that moment. And we used to use all the time the same train line. The maximum that we're moving is around 40 minutes distance. It's really easy. Each one of you is going to have you're going to have your own card. So you're missing one train, don't worry. The frequency is a lot. There are a lot of trains each 10 minutes or each half an hour, depending in the schedule where we are in that moment. So you can, and we have always a WhatsApp group. So if you have a problem, you're arriving late to one meeting or something, you can just test and we will share with you where we are in that moment or something, or we will wait for you. So it's pretty easy, and we have been doing that for a long time. I think that we did that, Lisa and I did that 3 years before this one, and we inherited the program from Charlie, who has been directing the program for 20 years. So everything is under control. We have a lot of knowledge about how to move, and you're not going to be, you just need to follow what we're doing. So guys, maybe it's the moment if you have questions.
How many drawings?
No, we already explained 140.
Did you update the number?
No.
140, no.
140?
So it's because of that you're
less.
seeing now these scary faces.
It's like four drawings a day.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 4 drawings a day. You know, we used to go all together in the same train to the day trip. We visit the first place. After the visit, we spend time there drawing. We have time for lunch, or we have another meeting after lunch. We visit another couple of places. In each place we're drawing, and we're giving you the time for each one of the drawings. So it's like it's the best balance we can do in between walking and sitting. I cannot believe that nobody has questions now.
This might be an impossible one for you to answer at this point, but how likely do you think this will actually be to happen this year with COVID?
We don't know, but the truth is that I think that that UVA wants to run the programs if it is possible, and Europe is going to be open if it's possible too, you know. Especially Italy, I don't think that they can stay in this situation without tourists for a long time. So, and we push, if you check the dates of the travel, we push it into the summer. Mm-hmm. In relation with last year, almost 1 month. So we're just to avoid conflicts with COVID restrictions. So during the summer, and I can say that also during this last summer, the life was pretty normal there. So if we're allowed to enter with your passports, with your American passport, because I hope Luis and I had always the chance to go back. If you're allowed to enter, we will go.
And we don't know if the dispensation will be different for educational programs, you know, as opposed to kind of straight tourism. So, you know, it remains to be seen. But Tom, yeah, it's tough to not, I mean, it's really tough not to say what we really want. Obviously we want it to happen, but the notion of committing or somehow tipping it in one way or another, I think is just, it doesn't serve anyone well. But yet all efforts, as I said in the introductory remarks, all efforts are full press to get our programs back up and running. So.
Yeah. So you have the commitment of the faculty that if it is possible to go, we are going to be ready and we are going to have everything ready just to go there. Okay, so the faculty and the school, of course, and the UVA.
I was wondering how many students usually go on the program each year?
And normally we have a maximum of 24 students, okay, because this is the maximum that they can fit in the dining room. This is like a very kind of functional like a number. And the minimum, I think, is like 18 or something like that.
Yeah, 16 is the minimum number.
I think we set it at 6 in order to make the program viable from a financial standpoint. 16 is our min.
Yeah. Normally we get like 20 students. Like
yeah.
Last year.
Yeah, last year we were full. We were completely full. We had a few students in the waiting list, but at the end we admit them and everybody stayed here.
Yeah, all 3 programs, the ones that we presented today last year were all full with wait lists across the board. I mean, Venice had 18, and then plus 2 on the wait list. So.
You don't have questions about how is the house? I don't know if you're sharing rooms. How's the food? The laundry? Nothing. Yeah, so I can respond then. So, as I said, we're always having lunch in whatever place we can stop by at the time, at lunch time. But dinner is always in the house. Dinner is like 4 courses, is homemade food by the people who work in La Casa. All the students are always super happy with the food because it's a lot of food and really good. You don't have food. We don't have dinner during the weekends. But you have the room, so they are not serving dinners. But if you want to stay during the weekend in the house, the room is yours. You're free to travel during the weekend or to stay in the house, make like trips, day trips, 20 minutes travel around this line. This train line, and that's all. And the laundry, for the laundry, you need to go to a laundry place. They are not doing the laundry for us in the house, but the TAs used to have it completely under control. About the Wi-Fi in the house. Wi-Fi in the house is really poor. We ask all the students to don't use it for streaming, but we never it never happened. So once that we use all the data that they have for the month in the house, we don't have a Wi-Fi anymore. So I think that this year what we're going to do is just to don't allow you to use the Wi-Fi since the beginning, because, or I don't know, just for, say I'm here, I'm safe, I arrive safe to your family. And that's all, because we cannot continue without Wi-Fi in the house for the rest of the month. And you can buy an Italian SIM for your phone that is super cheap and with a lot of data. Yeah. So don't worry, we will be prepared for further explanations when you arrive there about where to buy, and it's like 30 something euros, and you have data for the whole month, and calls and everything. Anyway, you can also continue using your American phone numbers, but I think that this is cheaper.
Yeah, we will. The first day we will point you the place. We will go with you to the place where you can find like this. these cards. Okay.
So more questions? Yeah, Bajesta.
Sorry, I think you're just continuing. So are we gonna be in like shared rooms, like 2 people, 3 people?
Yes, usually there are like only 4 or 5 individual rooms in the whole house. You're sharing rooms, but anyway, we need to be extremely cautious about the COVID restrictions, because it's not doesn't matter if you're sharing the room or not. If someone in the group needs to quarantine, probably everybody should be in quarantine. So it's not about the people who is sharing the room with you. Is that we will be in a group, we will be eating together, we will be traveling together all the time, we will be so close that if someone needs to quarantine, everybody will be in this situation. So we need to be extremely precautious with that. Yeah, usually we divide the rooms in between the students, so usually grads and undergrads are not mixed in the rooms. There are rooms for girls, and you cannot we're not allowed by the house to use to put people with different genders in the rooms either. A few rooms have the bathroom inside the room, and other rooms have the bathroom in the corridor. But anyway, it's just us. And also the bathrooms that are outside of the rooms are assigned to 2-3 people only. More questions? Guys, it's the first time that in a presentation there are not hundreds of hands up, and we don't have time enough to respond to all of them.
No, I want to ask about food restrictions or these kind of things.
Yeah, do you have any food restrictions? Usually, if we have vegetarians or people with another food restrictions in the house, they try to do their best to feed also these people. But usually in the house we're eating everything. So if you have any kind of restrictions, that could be medical restrictions, or don't worry, we will
just say it.
Yes, we need to know first, so we can let them know that they need to prepare a special food for you, and they always did so. But anyway, there are so many courses that is like just skip a few of them, doesn't matter too much, because we used to eat everything: vegetables, meat, fruit, cakes, everything in the same meal. They are serving everything, every meal. The breakfast, we used to do also the breakfast in the house. We used to leave the house pretty early, like 8 or before, depending on at what time is the train. The train station is 10, 12 minutes walking from the house. So we're pretty close, so it's a really easy way to move through Italy.
I have one more question. So the tickets and the meal and everything you're mentioning right now, they are under the unbillable section. So if for some reason, if you want to pay for the flight and all the non-billable stuff, would all these still be included, or then we have to be like separated from the group and pay on our own? Like, for example, for the meals.
The only thing that you need to pay by you up to you, how are you organizing, is the lunch. That usually we're not doing a huge lunch. We're just grabbing something in a bakery or something like that. pretty quickly or sitting
So
in.
dinners are included.
But the rest, only lunch, because
transportation.
Everything is
and transportation is included.
Tickets to the visits, everything. We're taking care of everything. I'm buying everything there once that we arrive. I'm buying everything, tickets for the trains, everything. Usually the tickets that we have been buying last year include also, they are weekly tickets, so it allows you also to use them during the weekends.
But I think this year, if we can, we are going to make a monthly ticket. If you can,
yeah.
But I mean, you are going to have like a free transportation with the train, because we are going to, UVA is paying for that.
Yeah. I'm just saying about the possible transportation that you want to use during the weekend. That sometimes it could be also included with the same weekly ticket, depending on where are you planning to go. But if it's in this from Venice to Verona, probably it would be included. And of course, it's included everything that you're doing with the group. The breakfast, the dinner, the room, the tickets, the trips, everything. Everything is included. The only thing that is not included is laundry, and because we cannot do the laundry in the house, and lunch.
But laundry is like $3.
Yeah, laundry is nothing, and lunch is because eating there is pretty cheap too. Yeah. And it's that we're eating so much in the dinner that, and we're also doing the breakfast in the house, that the lunch is usually a piece of pizza or something like that, or something that you're buying in a bakery, or a salad in a terrace of a cafeteria.
Italy is very affordable. I mean, a coffee is just €1. It's like $1.20 or something like that. Okay, so it's very, I mean, it's inexpensive. You can have a meal for $10 or something.
Or less, no.
You can survive with a little money.
Yeah. Or less than $10, I would say. Yeah. $10 is almost if you're eating in a place. No?
Yeah, having like first course, second course, and
yes. $10 is if you're sitting in a restaurant, several courses. That is not the case, basically, because we're eating so much in dinner that nobody can eat so much during the day. You know, it's more about what you used to do is being from one terrace to another terrace in the cafeterias, just because you're tired and because it's a good place to draw. Because usually you have cafeterias in front of the most important monuments, so you can just go to the terrace, ask for a Coke or a cafe, and draw for 1 hour.